Hey, supers, welcome back to another Shark Tank Tales interview. We have a guest here that had a story on her episode that just aired last week. Well, last week from when we recorded this, that stood out to not only me, but to the super community down in the comments asking, what how did this is this a thing? I've never heard of this in all the seasons. So I'm really excited to get to introduce the founder of Curie, Super Sarah Moret. Woo! What is going on, Sarah? How are you doing today?
Yay! Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I loved the title of your episode. I was hiking 2 hours ago.
It is not a
I'm
story
excited
that
to
we
share
get
the
to
story.
hear. Oh,
I
yeah, I'm
know.
excited. I'm excited to hear the story. But before we get to that story, let's talk about your relationship with Shark Tank. Were you a fan prior? What what's your relationship with Shark Tank
I
been?
was I was a big Shark Tank fan. I wasn't like watching it on live on Friday nights kind of fan, but like it was a show that for the past 10 years I've watched casually and seen tons of episodes. And I actually posted a blog post on our website, curiebot.com, about my experience filming Shark Tank and being on Shark Tank. And one of the things that I talked about in the blog was the fact that my mom and I used to watch Shark Tank together. Like this was probably when I was in college. We started watching Shark Tank whenever I was home from college. It was just a show that we both loved, that and American Idol. And so we would watch Shark Tank together. And I vividly remember because I was in a business program at Boston University and I was doing really well, getting really good grades, like Dean's List, like finally excelling in school. I was always kind of like, about school. I like squeaked by, but didn't love it. And all of a sudden, I was like super passionate about my business courses. And my mom was super proud of me and really excited. And I vividly remember this sitting on my couch at home with my mom watching Shark Tank. And she was like, that could be you one day. Like, you could do that. You could go on Shark Tank one day. And I just remember like having this conversation with her about like, what would I start? Like, I could start a company. I think I would actually be good at that. Like, we had this whole conversation about it. So I joked on our blog that my mom like manifested Shark Tank like 15 years ago.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It absolutely shaped so many like such a generation of kids to, teenagers
So many
to
people
want.
learn what they know about business like from Shark Tank. It's wild. It's like it really
Yeah,
has
if you pay
shaped a
attention.
generation. Yes.
If you're there for more than just the interesting products, there's so much to learn, and that's one of the inspirations to do, my channel and bring that those lessons to people and break it down and give further, because obviously, you're recording on the floor for an hour and a half, 45 minutes, and they can only, they're boiling it down to like 6 to 8 minutes, maybe 10 tops, and in that they have, they can only give so much, you know expansion upon the ideas in which they're talking about in the show. So I absolutely agree. Like that is so awesome that there's so many people that see it and see it for more than just an entertaining show with people and multi millionaires and billionaire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's cool.
so when it comes to Shark Tank, did you apply to be on Shark Tank, or did they reach out to you? They find you and reach out to you.
So I applied. I originally applied in 2020 to be on the show, and I just applied online, like submitted an application on their website. Heard back pretty quickly. Like went through. I can't remember. I think I went through one interview process. Like submitted a video and didn't end up getting on the show. But they said, we encourage you to apply again next year, try again. And so I did, applied again in 2021 and ended up getting on the show.
Ding ding. That's awesome. That's
Yes, I
awesome.
was so excited. So excited.
All right. So once you it started to look like you were going to be on the show, walk me through balancing, building out your pitch, balancing your business, and whatever else you had going on in your life at the time.
Yeah, it was crazy. I joke that like preparing for a Shark Tank was like having a part-time job. Like it was a part-time job that doesn't pay you. It was a lot of work. You have to look, I mean, you have watch the show and just like appreciate how much preparation goes into each one of those pitches. Like you have to write the pitch, you have to memorize the pitch, you have to practice the pitch, you have to prepare for all the Q&A. I had like a list of 100 different questions that the sharks might potentially ask me, and I wrote down all the answers. I practiced them. As you saw on the show, like I knew my numbers, like because I really, really prepared. I put a lot of time into preparing and making sure that my goal was like the worst thing that could possibly happen is I go there in there and I don't have an answer to a question. Like that was the worst case scenario to me. So I was really, really meticulous about knowing my numbers, having an answer to everything. But beyond just like the pitch and the Q&A, you also have the set. So this, again, you watch the show and like you don't really appreciate how beautiful these sets are, and each company has a really unique set, and that's the entrepreneur that designs it. The entrepreneur is the one that's like sourcing all the materials, getting all the beautiful photos, getting every little detail of the set right. That in itself took like months of finding, especially during COVID with delays and all of that. Finding that little like pedestal on my set was like a freaking 3-week process. It's like all this stuff adds up. So it was a big investment, a big time investment for me. And it was over the course of like, I want to say 6 months that I was preparing for Shark Tank.
Wow, wow. And how
Yeah.
and how did you balance that? Like, were you working a job at the time, or you full time at the time, or what was going on?
Yeah, it was well, so I've been full-time working on Curie since beginning of 2020. So that at least I didn't have to like I know there's entrepreneurs that go on the show that are juggling full-time jobs while preparing for Shark Tank, which I give them huge props. But luckily I have been working on Curie full-time for the last couple of years. And so I just tried to delegate as much as I could to the rest of my team. We only have 3 people, so there's not that many people to delegate to, but I got some help from our graphic designer on designing the set. I got some help from my sister preparing for questions. My fiance helped a ton with like helping me write my pitch and all that. So I tried to delegate as much as I could, but I also sell on QVC. So I go on air on QVC, actually, like literally here. This is my living room slash QVC set. And so I go on QVC. At the time, I was going on about twice a month. And so that was also challenging, like juggling QVC, like ramping up and having the pressure and preparation required to go on air, and then with QVC, and then also trying to just make sure I was getting prepared as possible for Shark Tank. So it was a busy summer. Last summer was crazy, and I just didn't do a lot of traveling or really anything besides Shark Tank.
Not too many people did. Not too many people did. So you didn't miss out. As much as you would have in say 2019 or previous. But no, that is awesome that you were able to tap into so many different people, and I think that's a great reminder for people to utilize the resources that they do have access to. Because we
Mhm.
might not have access to everybody that would be the best person to ask, but just utilize the resources that you do have.
You know what I also did that if anyone's watching this that's going on Shark Tank or wants to go on Shark Tank in the future, the best thing I did was I watched a bunch of episodes and then pitches that I thought were really good. Like the entrepreneur was great. For example, Jiggy. The
Hmm.
Jiggy
Yeah.
was on, I think 1 or 2 seasons ago. Loved her pitch. I thought she was so polished and prepared. if I watched a pitch and I loved it, I would just reach out to the founder. Like I DM'd the Jiggy founder, Kaylin, on Instagram after watching her episode and was like, hey, I'm going on this show. I would love like 15 minutes to just pick your brain, like, and ask you a couple questions about it. And so far, like the community of like Shark Tank alumni has been so warm and welcoming. Everyone responded. Like anyone that I DM'd or emailed or LinkedIn messaged responded and would hop on the phone with me and gave me some advice. Another one is Supply, the razor company that went on a couple years ago. The founder, Patrick, has given me so much advice. So that was like one of the best things I did, was like reached out to companies that have been on the show and got advice from them.
That is big. I mean, doing those, reaching out to people that even that
I
you
love the
don't
bell.
know. Oh, thank you. Even those people that you don't have connection to be, just potentially to get, 10, 15 minutes and
Yeah,
have,
it's like
thought
networking.
provoking questions would be great.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. So, okay, but before you got to go walk down the hallway, 2 hours, how were you hiking 2 hours prior, and how did you effectively get there in time to, for that time slot? Like, that's
It
from being
was
hiking.
crazy. Like this is the craziest experience, like the most high adrenaline experience of my life. So the short story, the abridged version of the story is I was a standby company for this season. So being like a standby company is kind of like being an understudy in a play. Like if there's space, if there's time, you'll get the call and you'll get an opportunity to film. So I had to do all that preparation and I was a standby company. And so I just had to wait to get the phone call and hopefully get an opportunity to go on Shark Tank. And so that happened in September. I was on a hike, living my life, even though I was on standby. I was like, I'm just, I'm going to continue doing my thing. I didn't go out of town or anything, but I continued to, I wasn't like sitting by my phone 24/7. So I went on a hike. I live in Santa Monica. I went to Griffith Park, which is about 40 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. It was about 30 minutes, but like 40 to 45 with traffic, LA traffic, of course. So went to Griffith Park, went hiking. And honestly, I had gone out the night before with some friends to this like Mexican restaurant with great margaritas. So I was also kind of hungover. I had like 2 margaritas the night before. Went hiking. It was a super hot day. We're like going up trudging up the mountain. I'm, a little bit hungover. Hadn't showered. Was like covered in dirt from the hike. I get to the top of the mountain, top of Griffith Observatory, look at my phone, and I had missed calls from one of the Shark Tank producers. And I was like, oh my, like I seriously just panicked for a second. I like knew what it was. And I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. Like, Sarah, pull it together, call her back. I called the producer back and they were like, can you be here in 2 hours? Like we've got a time slot for you. We've got an opportunity for you. Can you be here in 2 hours? And I was like, how about 3? And she's like, no, like you have to be here. We have, they have a time limit,
A window.
I guess.
Yeah.
A window.
Yeah,
like they have
time.
to be wrapped up.
Yeah.
And they were like, you have to be here in 2 hours or else like you're out of luck. And so I said yes. and my fiance, who is like a great planner, was like already Google mapping like how long it would take to get back home. And he's like, okay, we can be home in 40 minutes. I'll drive in the fast lane, go as fast as we can. You can practice your pitch in the car on the way home. Then we also had to get all the set items. If you look at my set, there was like fresh flowers and fruit and stuff like that. So he's like, I'll go to Whole Foods, get all the stuff you need for your set and get you a coffee. You get ready at home. I'll pick you up and then I'll drop you off at the studio. And so I was like, great. And we did that. I got home. I think I got ready in 20 minutes. Like I just curled my hair like crazy person. My fiance picked me up, got in the car. I did my makeup like in the passenger seat of a moving vehicle for Shark Tank, which is so hilarious. But got ready and got dropped at the gate like right on time and was able to pitch. So that is the backstory.
Wow.
I wish they had aired that full. I told the full story, but they didn't air the whole thing. So a lot of people have been asking me questions. They're like, "Why were you on a hike if you knew you were going on Shark Tank?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't know. I was on standby."
I mean, from what I've heard of other people sitting all day in the trailer, there's people that probably would like to go on a hike rather than sitting in the trailer all day waiting
It worked. It
when it was going to
worked.
work out for them.
Yeah, it worked out for the best. Like, even though it was crazy chaotic in the moment, it took me 45 minutes to get home, and then I had 20 minutes to get ready, and then I had to hop in the car and then get there, and then boom, I was like on like Shark Tank. Like, there was no waiting. Like, I
That,
had probably 15 minutes. I had to take a COVID test, but like other than that, it was like, boom, you're ready to go. And it was the best possible scenario, I think, for me personally, because I did not have time to get nervous. Like I was just like fight or flight, adrenaline. I love that like chaos of like, I've always been kind of like a procrastinator in school. Like I would be the person that would like write a final paper the night before. So it kind of worked out with like my personality where I was like, I'm gonna rise to the occasion and like I'm gonna show up and like be there and be in the moment full of energy. And like I think having the process happen like that just took all the nerves away. And I walked in through those doors and I felt like superhuman. Like honestly, it was a very surreal experience. It was an out of body experience where I really just felt like I could do anything. It was awesome.
so I guess my question, the only thing that's running through my mind is, would it have been quicker to like get an Uber from? Well, maybe because there's no Ubers up there from Griffith
No, I don't know if you've
Observatory.
been to LA recently, but in
Not
COVID
recently.
times, it takes like 25 minutes or 20 minutes to get an Uber.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because like Griffith Observatory is like that's the observatory, right? Like that the famous
Yeah.
one that everybody. Yeah.
It's
Okay. The
where like
Adele was just singing at. Like yeah.
Yeah, did
Yeah. Yeah.
her
Yeah. Yeah.
performance. So it was no, it was way better. My fiance's like drives fast. Like he was a good fast driver. I feel like if I had took an Uber, I'd be like, hurry up, forcing them to speed.
They'd be on Amazing Race before you're on Shark Tank. I mean, you kind of technically were. So,
Yeah.
okay, and the to speak to the product, right, that you're going on Shark Tank with, it's very on brand
It
to
was
not be,
that is such a great point. It was so on brand that I was hiking because like our brand, our like motto or slogan or whatever is like we're for humans in motion. Like our products are in Soul Cycles nationwide. We're in like gyms, locker rooms. We do a lot of like fitness, active lifestyle, like content, and all of our customers are super active. And so it was very on brand that I was hiking and was like, had to run down a mountain and like go straight to Shark Tank without showering. And then literally we have a product for that. Like our spray deodorant is, we say like, this is a great product for whenever you need a shower or a refresh and you don't have time to shower. And so I just like spritz, used our spray deodorant. Smelled great, smelled like orange neroli. And then the end of the episode, when Barbara like lifted my armpit, I was like, this is like priceless. This is so perfect that this happened the way it did. And that I happened to sell deodorant. Like it couldn't have all like worked out better.
so let's move. So you get onto the carpet. Let's talk about some of the things that that transpired while there. Your you didn't who was there a shark that you were looking to get a deal with out of the gate? Like before you came on the show, did you have somebody in mind that you were like,
Um, yeah, I definitely wanted Lori. I felt like Lori would be a great fit because she's like she invests she just seems like such a like champion for female founders. She like always invests and supports female founders, and she also has like the ties and connections to QVC, so it seems like a natural fit for me. But I've always loved Barbara. Like I just think Barbara is hysterical. And I've followed her on we do our my brand has a like decent presence on TikTok. And so I follow Barbara because she has a amazing TikTok and her Instagram's great too. So I've followed her for a while and I love her. So I wanted Lori, I wanted Barbara, and then Mark Cuban is like, to me, that was like, oh my God, if I got Mark Cuban, that would be like incredible. But I wasn't expecting it. Like I didn't think that Mark would be interested in like a mostly female, deodorant brand. Like it didn't seem like something he would be interested in. So I didn't even really think that it was possible that Mark would be interested. I thought going in, I was like, I would be happy with like Barbara or Lori.
yeah, I mean, I kind of felt like you were gonna say Lori there, especially with the QVC connection and all
Yeah.
that. So when you went back and forth with Damon, who I mean, effectively cut your valuation, into a quarter of what you went in looking for.
And I was like, no, no, no.
But I mean, I think you came back with a. I don't want to use the word generous, but I think you came back with a closer to earth, counter offer than like some people like. Well, I'll give you 6%.
Yeah.
Like,
I
you
mean,
know,
that was what I said on the show. I was like, I think I came back with a very fair counter offer because, like, I know there's a Shark premium, like at the Shark Tank premium. I wasn't going to try to go to 5% or 6% or whatever. So I came back with what I thought was a pretty fair counter. But I think I think Mr. Wonderful was like, well, there's a Shark Tank premium. And like I said on the show, I was like, I'm giving you a Shark Tank premium. Like this is a Shark Tank premium. And people really liked that. I've gotten a lot of DMs and like messages of I think I think a lot of people took away from that exchange that like I stuck to like I knew my worth and I like stuck to it. I was like, I know what my business is worth. I know what I'm worth as the entrepreneur, as the founder, as the face of the brand. And I'm not budging like on that. And I'm giving you an opportunity to invest. Like I'm not coming here begging for you.
yeah, no, I absolutely. I mean, if Damon had come back at 15%, would you have budged to 15? Because in my
Um
opinion, that's where like when you say 12, you really mean 15 because you want him to come down to 15. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And going back and forth like
Yeah.
that.
I didn't I will say, like, Damon isn't the person that I was, like, going on the show thinking, "Oh, that's, like, someone I really wanna get a deal with." I think I really respect Damon and, like, the brand he's built, but or with FUBU and everything, but I feel like he's typically more in, like, the apparel business, similar to, like, Mr. Wonderful. Like, I wouldn't have thought that Mr. Wonderful would be a great fit with my
He
brand
was a
as
great
well.
fit for Behave Bras, apparently.
I know. But I just was like, "Oh, I don't know." Like, and so I feel like in my head I was like kind of thinking about, all right, what value could these people bring? And I was willing to like flex up or down based on that. And so I actually don't know what I would have done if he came back with 15. In the moment, I I think now I'm like, I'm really glad things turned out the way they did because I think we got um exactly what I wanted. So it turned out for the best. I don't know what would have happened though if Damon would have offered me 15.
And you know, it's one of the few episodes or few pitches where you know, something like that happened, where people came back in and
I
teamed up for a
know.
deal.
It was crazy in the moment. So, when you're on the, like, whatever stage or on the carpet, they're pretty far away from you. Uh, I don't know how, they're pretty far.
I
They're
mean, it
far.
looks pretty far away,
It's
and
far.
it definitely
So
further than they were in previous seasons.
yeah, it's far. So you can't really hear them like whispering. So I was talking to Damon's, and Damon was over here. So I was like looking at Damon and I was like laser focused. And then I think Mr. Wonderful kept like interrupting and piping in. So I was like looking at the two of them. But then at some point I like kind of saw out of the corner of my eye. But like again, they're really spread apart too this way. So Barbara and Mark were like way over here out of my peripheral vision, but at some point I like glanced that way and saw that they were talking. So I obviously couldn't hear what they were saying, but like on the episode you can hear they like show subtitles of like Mark and Barbara being like, oh, like let's go in, let's go in. I couldn't hear that, but I could see out of the corner of my eye them like leaning in and talking to each other. So I was like, okay, maybe they're interested, like maybe they're about to swoop in. And so that's why I kept going, even though like Mr. Wonderful at one point like interrupted me and was like, what, like are you gonna make a deal or something? And I just was like, no, like I'm gonna keep going on this like talking about my hustle, about, you know, no one, like I just was hiking 2 hours ago, there's nothing I won't do to make this company successful, like we're gonna win because like I won't quit, and like going on and on and on about that, because I could see out of the corner of my eye Mark and Barbara talking. And so I was like, I'm just gonna keep going and stretch this out until they pipe in. And that's exactly what happened. I was talking and then all of a sudden they were like, I don't remember exactly what they said, but like, we have an offer for you, or we have a deal. And so it was just funny in the moment. Like I couldn't hear anything. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew there was like something going on over there. So I just was like, keep going, like keep this alive, keep it alive. And it worked out.
It did it, and it doesn't always, you know, work out that way. When things like that potentially could happen, um, you know,
Yeah, I
because
was afraid. I mean, it could have backfired and they could have been like, Sarah, like you're overselling and like taking the deal away or something like that. So I definitely like was taking a risk by just basically steamrolling all the interruptions that I was getting, and like kept going, kept going, kept going. But it worked in my favor, I think.
it absolutely did. So once you got off set and you got to, you know, go back to your house and get it, probably, I presumably probably take a shower
I
and
did
I
take a
would think
shower.
sleep. Did you go to sleep? Did you take a nap afterwards, or were you
So what
too hyped?
happens? So you get off, you go back to your trailer, you can like get changed, and then I hadn't driven, so I had to like wait to get picked up. And then um I got home and it was probably at that point like 8:30 at night by the time I got home, and I was just so wired. Like I was crazy, like it was like I could have stayed up all night, like easily. I was so wired. So I was like calling, like FaceTiming my family. They didn't, because no one knew I was filming. So I got off the show and like got to call my family and be like, hey guys, I filmed Shark Tank today. And also like, you know, this is what happened. And so that was really fun because everyone was like, what? Like shocked. And so I like spent an hour or two like calling my family and stuff, and then ate, took a shower, and had a very hard time falling asleep. I think I ended up going to bed at like 2 that night.
Oh wow,
I was
yeah, I
just
probably
like,
would
I
have
was
taken the
so excited.
melatonin
I was
to
so
be able to
excited. I
come
like
down off of it.
I couldn't believe it. Like I really I know I came off as very confident in the episode, but like going in, I didn't really think we'd get a deal. Like I thought, you know, oh, I hoped we would, but I wasn't like 100% confident. I wasn't expecting it. And so, because, you know, like we've raised money before, I was going in at a pretty high
Mhm.
valuation. It's a competitive space. Like I was realistic with what their pushback might be and was like, you know, there's a chance that we go on and we don't get a deal. But either way, it's going to be a great experience, like life experience that I can share, even if we get ripped apart. And so going in with that attitude, like I was like beside myself coming off the set. I could not believe that like not only did I get a deal, but it was like went really well. Like no one tore me apart. They were really respectful, really nice to me, and I got a deal with like two of my dream sharks. So I was like, I think I went back to my trailer, and you can see this at the end of the episode. Like I was like, ah, like I think I said, like, it's so lonely being an entrepreneur. Like I was so emotional for that like hour after. I was just like crying, like hugging, like thanking everybody, thanking the producers for the opportunity. Like I was just so beside myself. I couldn't believe that had happened. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
that
It was
it
an
is. I
emotional
mean,
day.
well, yeah, hey, I always say it makes for a great story afterwards, regardless of how it would have
Yes.
happened. The unforeseen circumstances is always a bonus to the story.
Yeah. I think I was, like, thanking the camera guy with, like, tears in my eyes, like, "Thank you for being here." I was very emotional and very grateful.
And I, of note, you before we record, you did mention that everybody was so nice and accommodating, the staff and everybody. Like,
Yes.
I, I,
Yeah.
I don't know that you're. I don't recall if you're the first one to say that. Not that people hadn't mentioned that in the past, like in passing, but you specifically were like, I need to make this said.
I loved, the staff, the Shark Tank, like, producers, assistants, like, everybody that I interacted with was so nice and warm and friendly. It, like I know this is, like, kinda cheesy cliche, but, like, it felt kind of like a little family, because you work with them for a long time, like, many months getting prepared, and so it was really fun to, like, come out of the Shark Tank and, like, get to celebrate with these people who had like been part of the journey. And they were all so happy for me. And they're so like everyone that works on the show is just really awesome. And that was like definitely a big takeaway that really stood out for me. Like even the assistants that were helping, get our set ready were just so, congratulating me and thanking. Like it was a really good experience. I had a great experience overall.
That's
I just
awesome.
didn't I think it's just because I didn't expect that. I think with TV, you're like, "Oh, it's TV, it's probably, like, cutthroat Hollywood," but they were wonderful.
No, yeah, I could see that. People doing things that they're just like, it's they're just going through the motions at this, especially if they've been there for a number of seasons or all the seasons
Yeah.
or most of the seasons at that point. Like they're
Or,
just
like, they
going
know
through the
they have a hit
motions.
and they know they have, like, a hit show. So I was like, "Oh, they're probably" I just expected that they'd probably be, like, kind of cutthroat and like, "All right, next one," but they were really great, and they were so it was really fun to, like, celebrate with them after.
That's awesome. Well, it's good to see that they have humanity, even after, like, even seeing it so often.
Yeah.
The highs and the lows that are coming out of the tank.
Yeah.
And I give them high praise every time I do one of these interviews, and most of the videos, talking about the editing, that skills that they
It's
put together,
wild. I
between them
know.
and the producers to like
It's
make the show
crazy.
happen the way it's
I
shown.
I can't believe they took I was in there for an hour, and they took a full hour of content. I think my segment was 10 minutes. Like, they took 60 minutes and turned it into 10 minutes, and it flowed perfectly. It was totally representative of, like, what it was actually like. Like, they didn't it was really, really well done, so I'm really impressed too with how their production team can do that with, like, so many different pitches, and they do a really good job.
I mean, it's incredible. I always say, like, the best way to do it is to start with the end and then work backwards for what's important. Because like a lot of
Oh,
people
yeah.
like on this show have said like, oh, Mark was standing up and like giving the big claps and everything, but then that never made the end. And it's like, well, because Mark wasn't the person you did deal with at the end, so
Oh,
things got to get cut.
yeah.
Like they
That's
can't.
so true.
It also makes it more confusing to the person staying out, watching at home, like when there's only 8 minutes and it's like, Mark's cheering, but then like doesn't invest unless that's part of the storyline at the end because there's an interaction
Yeah.
for them to like play off to build the story back at
Yeah.
the beginning.
It's funny because viewers at home, I don't think a lot of them don't realize how long you actually film. Because I've gotten like a million DMs and emails and stuff from Shark Tank fans, like asking me questions. And I've gotten from a couple people like, "Hey, I thought it was weird that you didn't talk about XYZ. Like, and I thought it was weird you didn't talk about, you know, antiperspirant more. I thought it was weird you didn't talk about, why the product's more effective, like all this stuff." And I'm like, I did. It just didn't air. So I think a lot of people at home don't realize there's a lot that happens that's discussed that doesn't make it to air. And I think you're right. A lot of it has to do with like they only have 10 minutes, so they know that at the end that I make a deal with Barbara and Mark, so they're going to prioritize Barbara and Mark versus maybe some of the other comments that Lori made or Mr. Wonderful made.
Yeah,
Mr. Wonderful
yeah,
actually had some
absolutely.
like really good jokes that didn't make it in.
Oh wow. But hey, that's the power of being a great editor to
Yeah,
have to make those tough decisions. I mean,
you have
I
to
would
make
love
I would.
to see the uncut videos. If I could get a hold of a
I
handful of
know.
those and
They
bring them here
should
on the
do
channel,
that. They should
I would
release
love.
them. That would be
It
so
probably is. I
cool.
bet you more often than not, it's probably mostly boring. Like
Yeah.
it sounds cool. Like you're in it, and if it's yours, then that's one thing. If it's your family watching you, it's one thing.
Yeah,
But
a full
but
hour
like
is
at
a
a certain
lot.
point, yeah, it is like it's tough. Plus the fact that they're like yelling over each other apparently quite
Yeah,
often in there,
they
it's
are. Yeah.
very confusing.
It's crazy. Once they start the Q&A, it's like again, they're really spread out. So you're like and they're just like question, 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 and then interrupting and you're like, "Okay, hold on." Da, 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 da. But that was a piece of advice that again, talking to people who had been on the show before prepared me for that. They're like, they're going to be peppering you with questions. Like, you just have to command the room, like, control it. Like, don't let them swallow you up. You have to be in control. You're the boss. And so I was prepared. I'm glad that I got that advice because it was like rapid fire questions.
So, was there any other thoughts or advice you'd like to leave with the super entrepreneurs with before we wrap up here?
Um, Thoughts or advice? So are most people watching this show entrepreneurs?
I would say it's like a 60-40 split. Yeah.
Okay.
60% yes, and then 40% are not. Entrepreneurs.
From this experience, and I think just in being an entrepreneur in general, is like timing's everything. Like, I got a no from Shark Tank. Like, I was really disappointed when I didn't get on the show in 2020. And then like I got on the show this year, but like I was a standby, so I potentially wasn't gonna be on the show. Um, and so it's been like a good lesson in just like surrendering and being like timing is everything and things work out exactly how they should. You don't need to like stress. And there's so many examples of that, like in my business. Like, most of the great things that have happened in my business have started with a no. Like, I emailed Nordstrom 4 times and got 4 no's. And then on the fifth try, like, got a yes. And now we're in Nordstrom. I tried to get on QVC. They said no. And then now I'm on QVC. Every Shark Tank, like, got a no. And now I just got on Shark Tank. And so a lot of being an entrepreneur is getting rejected over and over and over and over again. And I used to be really bad that, like bad at the rejection, I would take it to heart. It would ruin my day. I would be really upset. I'd be like, oh, am I doing the wrong thing? Like, should I quit? Like, is this a bad idea? Nordstrom doesn't want me. Like, does that mean we're doomed? Like, I'd read too much into it. And this experience, and just in general, the experience of running my business over the last couple of years, is like, just don't take no's as like a no forever. Like, there's always going to be another opportunity down the line, and like timing really is everything. Sometimes the timing isn't right. Just keep your head down. Don't get discouraged by those no's and the letdowns, because I really think things like, especially the big things for us, have just happened at the right time. And I wish that I hadn't like stressed as much as I had in hindsight.
I love that. Yeah, the no's are just today, and especially when you're dealing
Yeah.
with big companies, like it might not even be the same person literally tomorrow that's reading the
Exactly.
email.
Exactly. Yes, it's so true. Like, there's so much that can change in a business. Like QVC, just as another example, like when I first tried to get on QVC, like they weren't really doing a lot of like clean products, wasn't really a big category yet. And then I followed up a year later, and it was a big category, and they were like, great, like glad you came back. So it's really just like, a no doesn't mean you're, I think a lot of people, like their ego gets bruised, and they're like, oh, like they said no to me. But it's like, in my head now, if I get rejected, I'm like, all right, I'll be back. Maybe you'll change your mind later. So you just gotta
Well,
have that like resiliency, I think.
no, absolutely. Yeah, you got to be able to bounce off those rejections, because they come at that's part of the price that we
Yeah.
pay for having
Yeah.
our own businesses.
Yeah. You gotta get that tough skin sooner or later.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you had said in your email that you actually had watched my channel prior to going on
Yeah.
Shark Tank, which was a first to my knowledge, that somebody has watched the show prior to going on the show.
You guys, I told you I did my research. Like, I prepared like crazy. I prepared like an athlete going to the Olympics. Like, I was a crazy person in my preparation for Shark Tank. I watched episodes. I reached out to former entrepreneurs that had been on the show. I made like lists and lists and lists of questions, practiced, and then there's a Shark Tank subreddit that I joined, and was like kind of like asking questions. Like, I didn't tell people I was going on the show, but I would like pipe in and be like, what is your favorite thing that like an entrepreneur da, 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 or like, what do you think of? And I would ask people questions, and then also read people's commentary. And then I would watch, I think I watched a couple of your videos. So
Oh, that's
I did
awesome. That's
everything, like
awesome.
any content that was out there about Shark Tank, like I was reading it or watching it or consuming it.
As you should, right? I mean, people that have said in the past that they've read all the biographies of all the sharks, and like all the, like, to know every like little last detail, hidden gem of
Yeah.
information that they possibly can, to help game their
That's actually
opportunities.
the one thing I didn't do, but I probably
Oh,
should have.
ding ding. All right. Well,
That's like a very
hey,
obvious thing that I'm like, oh, I actually didn't do that, but it's okay. I've watched the
not a
show before. I
problem.
know. I know the basics.
Sarah, before we wrap up here, how could everybody get in touch with you or get Curie for themselves?
So the Shark Tank response has been crazy. So I thought we had more than enough inventory. And we've sold out. So we
Woo!
are currently, I know, ring that bell. We sold out. We're on pre-order right now. So we'll be in stock back next month. But so people can find us on curiebot.com, but they might have to wait to get their products if you want to buy it. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, social media at Curiebod, CURIEBOD. And yeah, that's how you can get in touch with us.
Awesome. And you absolutely should. Sarah, thank you again so much for taking the time to come on the show today. I
Thank
greatly
you.
appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. And I appreciate you watching all the way to the end here. We'll see you. If you haven't watched Sarah's pitch yet, watch up here. If not, we'll see you down below. Take care and go be super.